Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. Good, fine morning to you. For those of you that are new here, I'm a professional intuitive empath, and today I want to share with you a little bit of advice. If they didn't cut you, don't share the bleed. This is the story of Goldilocks, YellowBox, and the three Airbnbs. What I want you guys to understand is that we are here learning all of these lessons, and we learn them primarily my empaths through relationship dynamics. And I've learned so many lessons in the last few years, and I've documented them here. But I'm at the end of the really hard part of it. Well, I've been out of the really hard part of it for a while, but and here's how I know, because I'm getting to watch myself play out behaviors that let me know it's time to grow or are pointing me in the direction of areas of growth that I might need to take, or mistakes that I could possibly make that could sabotage wonderful things for me. We all have an opportunity to have that purview and to be able to see. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today about Goldilocks, YellowBox, and the three Airbnbs. I've had opportunities in my life to go through transitions in relationships, like I said, and the same will be true for you. When I say specifically, if they didn't cut you, why share the bleed? I watched myself have behaviors that it wasn't anything terrible, guys, but it was just, I was regressing into myself instead of living full in a relationship with someone who deserves me to be there fully and presently. And I had to apologize to them and hold myself accountable. And it all got triggered by looking down at my feet. Goldilocks, YellowBox, and the three Airbnbs. If you guys know the premise of the story of Goldilocks, it's essentially this beautiful young lady that stumbles into a house and she's trying to find, I think it's Goldilocks and the three bears, is what it is, and she's trying to find like her place there. She's trying to find comfort there. And one person's bed is too hard for her, and the other one is too soft, and one is just right. One bowl of porridge is steaming hot, and the other is too cold, and one is just right. And so it goes, right? As a preschool teacher, I used to share that a lot. I never think it would be something I would live out in my own right, but in fact, I have. We have friendships in our life that all suit us differently. And if we're lucky, we have a handful of friends as we get older that are really important but fulfill different needs. And that has been true for me. And it's funny, I actually have another Goldilocks friend, who was so integral in major parts of my life when I was going through all of my 20s angst and strife. And I was in culinary school and college, and she would come over and stay up with me all night making the gingerbread house that I would compete in the next day. And I would go on to win first place, but that's because I had someone who was a good friend who was helping me cut all of the brittle, burnt ends and mixing up new batches of icing and letting me go wild with my vision. She was a good friend with me. When I had my culinary finals, if you will, I did Belgium, and we researched the Smurfs, and I no offense to anybody here that is vegan, but it is a dish of Belgium is rabbit. So I had to source that, find it, and properly prepare that, which was new for me. And she was right there with me every step. We got the poppies, and it worked out really great. The president of the college happened to come in that day, and my professor pulled me aside later and said, "You've blown them away. We didn't expect what you did." But that's because I had a great friend by my side who was every step of it with me, even except for coming to school that day to present it and cook. I had to do that on my own. But man, for weeks she researched with me and cut out things and made the presentation spectacular. And you know what they say, you prepare and then you align with your opportunity. So I didn't know the president of the college was going to be there that day, and I didn't know what a splash it would be, but I had a good friend who stood beside me. That was a Goldilocks who was good for me and has been. Now, the reason I'm going to say this is because I think it's important to understand the way that we change and retransverse through friendship. That person in my life I couldn't offer everything to, and she needed to explore and had other friends to interact with and other things to do. And we had a bittersweet moment in our friendship where she had a new friend that she was enamored with, and she had to go off in that direction. And I was with forlorn and longing that I watched on, because I knew that I could not hold on, because I knew that if our friendship was strong, she would find her way back to me happily, and she did. But she needed to go have that exploration. But she was not immature about it, and neither was I. We're both of our feelings hurt in different ways. Years later, when we chatted about it, we found out, yes, that we both missed each other when we were sad about it, but it needed to happen. And I said to her, what I saw that this person offered you, I couldn't. This was a person of her same age, someone who was literally moving communities and houses at the same time that she was, to the same place. They had so much in common, artistic energy, which we had in common too, but I was just not at that phase of my life. She had other things to do. So I watched on as we kind of drifted apart in a weird way for a time. And but my angels always promised me, don't worry, she'll get back to you. And she did. But that was done out of maturity and love. There was no drama, there were no ugly words, there were no mind games. It was just a thing that happened, and we drifted away. But did she fit at a place in my life? Absolutely. Yes. But I knew that I had more that I wanted to do. And I had other things that I had manifested. And I knew that I would be blessed with someone who could line up exactly with me. But that was one of my first opportunities to have a porch that felt pretty close, that was good for me. But it wasn't exactly just right, meaning that there were other things in my life that I was like, I need this kind of energy for this. And I don't know if that's going to be a fit. And even in her drifting, it allowed me to conceptualize differently that someone is not an end all or a be all, that someone doesn't have to be completely it, that we diversify and we outsource until we find exactly what feels right for us. And it's taught to us since we're kids. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. As I went on in different friendships, and I had friendships meandering all throughout there. So we've been friends for many years. I had one for many years as well. And that one devolved into pure hell because there was immaturity. That's the one you guys have heard me talk about here, primarily with the covert narcissist. That porridge was too hot, for sure. Now, and that doesn't mean that I didn't blow on it, that I didn't try to cool it off, that I didn't spice it up with cardamom and cinnamon, that I didn't try to add some heavy cream or a dollop of Amish butter. I mean, I did everything to make that more palatable so that we could nourish and feed each other. But that person was an agent of chaos. And they were here just to teach me to know when to say it's just not for me, you know? Pardon me, guys. Now, I had thought that they were just right. In fact, I had willed that they were just right. I knew that I would be doing mediumship with a friend. That's what my angels had shown me in the nights. They said, you will have someone that travels the world with you. You will have, sorry guys, you will have someone that travels the world with you. You'll have someone that does exactly what you do, but not exactly what you do, in that they won't be jealous of you, they will not be competitive with you, or anything of that nature. You will have someone who will be a business manager of sorts, someone who will be at your shows or your gallery readings or whatever you do. And this is a life I could not even fathom because it had not come true at all. But I tried to make it be true with that porridge that was too hot. I was like, oh, this must be what you're talking about. So I shared with her the vision, and I gave her the blueprint to the dream, and I let her peek behind the veil and look at the things never seen to anyone else, just me. And you know what she did? Because it was not right for me, she tried to literally carbon copy my identity and take it for her and do it with someone that she felt was her just right porridge, which is fine. Because I had been prepared with my previous Goldilocks about bittersweet separations, I knew what was happening, though this person trafficked, like I said, in chaos, vitriol, gossip, and immaturity, and jealousy. That doesn't mean that me and the other Goldilocks didn't feel jealousy. We did, and we talked about it when calmer heads prevailed. But the thing about it is, we were never hotheads, really. Maybe that porridge was too cool, but that wasn't bad either because you can still eat a cool porridge, right? You're not burning yourself on a cool porridge. Could you be fully sated? It depends. But there were things in that friendship that were wonderful for me and still are. You understand? It evolved. Even when it was set free for both of us to kind of go explore, it evolved. And now it's more solid than ever before. But I had been prepared for what it looks like when you might drift with somebody. So I knew it was happening with the two hot porridge and the crazy somebody that I used to know. But she wanted it to be a shit show, and I don't specialize in that. I mean, I love a show. I'm a Leo, sun sign through and through, so a spectacle and a bit of flair, pizzazz, and drama is something I can do, but I like it to be for theatrical purposes of teaching you, okay? I like it to be in my makeup. I like it to be in my clothing choices. I like it to be in my artistic expression and what I paint on a canvas. I don't want it to be in my relationships. If there's drama, let it be a brilliant wine that no one's seen for 30 years that we uncork together as we cheers overlooking a Maldivian island. Like that's the kind of drama I'm in for. I'm not in for we're fighting each other Jerry Springer style. That's the kind of drama that drove her wild. She couldn't get enough of it. Hot, messy drama, druggy drama, baby mama drama. It reminds me of Big Sean. Control your host. You let her talk to you crazy. You have baby mama drama, and you ain't even got no baby. That's that too hot porridge. She had that kind of life. I was like, how do you have this? How did we get here? How is this your life? And you have a baby's mom, and yet you do not have a baby with somebody actually. Anyway, I digress. My point is that that porridge was way too hot for me. And so I was very okay with setting it free when I realized if she has her way, she will be the death of me. I was like, not today, Satan, not today. Now let's get back to the people that we bleed on who didn't cut us. That person cut me deeply. That too hot porridge cut me deeply, affected me greatly, altered my emotional DNA, altered. Sorry, guys. I have in super long hair right now, and it is driving me crazy. I had it up earlier, but I took it down. So she drove me absolutely crazy. And just like my hair, just irritated the shit out of me. And with my hair though, I can put it up in a clip and get it off of my body and I can be away from it. But that relationship, we have energetic cords and connections, right? And so it was not so easy to cut her out of my life until I realized how egregious she was and I had no choice and I had to do it. But because of it, I had PTSD. Then God sends an earth angel to me. I've been stumbling around, putting around in that Goldilocks house, trying to find the right bed, the right porridge, the right situation for me. And while friendships have had their merits and they have blessed me greatly, another friend, a bulldog, another bowl of porridge, but just not exactly right for me. A good friend that I will have for all of my days who has shown up for me in so many brilliant ways. But I was looking for something specific. Empath, divine feminine, it's very okay for you to want a certain thing. We are cultivated and taught, especially as women children, to be okay accepting and settling. Oh, well, be nice, play nice, and do this, and it's okay, and whatever. No, it's okay for you to want it your bloody way. It's okay. Because when I watched those other friendships, they outsourced the people that they wanted to have their bloody way with. The reason and how I know that a porridge is just right for me is because there could be 20 other porridges on the table, and the Goldilocks I'm talking about presently would choose me every time. She doesn't have to taste the other 20. And that's hard to find. And that is not something that you find easily unless to some level and to some degree it's actually part of your destiny and it's truly meant to be. Not fluffy words, not some crazy talk, but actually one of the things that sets this person apart from me, and I want you to check it against your friendships, is that those other friendships that divested or we drifted apart bittersweetly, they needed to vet other people to make sure that it was me. They were never just immediately sure about me. I had shown up with all, like, when I show up in someone's life, it's like, ta da! I'm here and I know who you are. If I love you, if I'm attracted to you, if you're my shining star, if you're my best friend, if you're my person to the end of time, I immediately let it be known. I put up a big neon sign and I never make you question it. Now, I know that I dealt with people pleasing like a lot of us have, if you're listening. But even as it got tempered and tamed throughout the years, it's the same. And even my bulldog needed to go off in a different direction with different energies. And years later, came back to me and said, "You were the best that it could be." That doesn't mean that I punish her because I don't traffic in that immaturity that hot porridge did, right? But it does mean that I understand that there will be someone who fits me just right, who is immediately sure about me. Okay? We can find that whether it's romantically or platonically. You want someone to be sure about you immediately. I never understand people that are like, well, it took us a while. No, you know pretty quickly if someone's your person, whatever that means. And that doesn't mean you don't need to still vet them. And that's also one of the reasons that I say I have to be very careful not to bleed on someone who didn't cut me, because in the vetting process, I've learned more and more every day exactly how much of my person she is and why God sent her my way. It was a life-saving mission. She was it was a reconnaissance mission. She was the Marines. She came to get me out of my dark night of the soul, and I'm very grateful. But with those other friendships, guys, when they chose other people over me, again, I don't shun them and I don't say, I punish you for eternity. I'm a really forgiving person if someone is honest and owns up to whatever's going on and says, look, I was in a weird time. And I've had conversations with both those women, my bulldog and my Goldilocks, my first Goldilocks. And I had conversations with them where we both talked about why other friendships were chosen or why they disregarded good advice I was giving them because they had to walk through their own lessons. Both of them have parallel situations. They had lovers, boyfriends, um, almost potential husbands, where I advised them be very careful here. And then the guys would want to turn on me, message, story of my life. And also with girlfriends that I knew were going to do them dirty. And it happened every time. They would come back to me and be like, you weren't right. You weren't wrong. You were right. Exactly what you said. One of them ended up getting out of a relationship before her boyfriend got picked up by the feds. A RICO case. I still have to make the video about that someday. I predicted this RICO case. So the reason that I tell you that is that I was in their life for a reason, maybe to spare them some unfortunate things. They still had to walk through it. One of them now is married to somebody else, but the boyfriend she had before it, I knew immediately he wasn't right for her. And I remember us, we were walking to this place, um, and it was this blues club, and it was like one of our first friend dates, quote unquote. And I remember just, I don't know why, it was before I was really even working so much like professionally in my field. This is many, 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 many years ago, and I was like, this guy's not for you. He's not the real deal. And she had just got him, and she just got out of a really hard divorce, and things were tough, and she recoiled, pulled away from me emotionally for a little while. That's fine. We stayed friends, but within 5 years, the relationship did what it was going to do, and it crumbled spectacularly because of him, not her. He was horrible and did treated her badly when she'd been nothing but a lovely support and a lovely person to him. Everything I felt wasn't wrong. And after it happened and crumbled, she said, I wasn't listening because I had waited so long to just have someone love me. And I knew you were right that night. I knew it immediately, but it frightened me. Empaths sometimes will frighten people. A meandering story. I'm going to get back to the point, I promise you, but maybe someone here needed to hear that. If someone pulled away from you, you told the truth. That's what we do. I don't tell it in malice. I tell it because it's true. I tell it because I know one day they'll have a breakthrough and one day they'll say to me, thank you. And both of those women have. The one, especially, that was spared from being stalked by the federales as her ex went down in a ball of flames, and people ended up in prison. It was no game, and I made a prediction. because I cared and I didn't want her to be left insane. And to this day, she thanks me. You guys saw me recently do a video with my goddaughter regarding political commentary when we were having a birthday sleepover. And that goddaughter is not the child of the person that got with the feds. Right after she'd listened to my prediction, she ended up with someone else instead, and that's who she had the child with. God has a reason. We all have a purpose to speak up for a thing. But here's what I'm saying about these friendships so you can understand. They had to go find out their own way. And I'm a purist in a certain kind of way. I don't hold anything against them. You guys see me. I spend time with both of these people. I love them to this day. They will never not have the most special place in my heart. But I knew that they were my people and part of the tribe in our own way. We were part of tribesmen for each other right from the start. I didn't need to figure it out. I remember with that other friend that Hay House was a big deal at the time. And we'd always talk about Hay House. We loved Louise Hay. This is when she was still alive. And we loved Wayne Dyer. This is when he was still alive. You see, the old guard has died out. We loved Irene Virtue. This is when she still was part and didn't divest and hated everything spiritual, now has gone fully back to Christianity and condemns all of the spirituality she created. So this was at its zenith is when we were supposed to do it, and we just talked about it. And for some reason, my friend's very lucky, she won tickets. And the boyfriend that I predicted was a piece and not worth it, she he didn't like that we hung out because hashtag my life, and he could have cared less about her spirituality stuff. He just kind of was like a lug on the couch, but she wanted to take me. And when he found out, he definitely put his foot in and decided no. So she took him instead. And you're allowed to do that. That's your man. I totally get it. But it never kind of left my head. I was like, I would have never done that to you. I would have never picked any guy or girl I was seeing over you. It would have been you that went with me to the Hay House thing unapologetically, unequivocally, because he didn't even appreciate it. And it was so easy for me to see and for her to see. And then they broke up not long after that, ironically. So it was just funny to me. But here's the thing, just because you can move on with your friendship and forgive your friend doesn't mean that you don't understand if you weren't immediately chosen. And it doesn't mean that that's a punishment, because sometimes something else is better for you. And now we get back to the story about what that hot, cold, or just right porridge will do. These situations showed me that these people were definitely supposed to be part of my energy and part of my life, but they needed to vet a lot of other things and figure out what was right for them, because they're allowed to do that. Am I grateful that they came back and apologized and or said to me I missed you, and or said I felt sad or lonely? It's nice to have clarity, and I gave them the same, you know? But I did hold out for what I wanted and what was just for me. It doesn't mean that they lose any of their value or their equity, but there's something special about someone choosing you immediately. And that's what I'm talking about today. I recently was traveling throughout the states, the southern states. I had gallery readings with several different people and several different groups of people. And so I was in several different states traveling. And one of the states ended up being in the town where my bestie lives. And she specifically had kind of got this client for me. And by non specifically doing it just because she's awesome, and let me explain. Somehow there was some kind of, I don't know even how it happened, but the wires were crossed at some salon, and someone heard about me. And my bestie and whoever ended up working with never even met until I was doing the preliminary interview not long ago. So it was really interesting. But I always wanted someone that was going to come with me to, like I said, my gallery readings, my shows, whatever I had to do. And these other women in my life could not do that. That doesn't mean that they're bad or they're worthless or they hold no merit. They do. That's what I need you guys to hear. People in your life. I think it's because I grew up with the Girl Scout motto, which is a song we used to sing at the beginning of every meeting. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other is gold. Yes, I would have preferred that they didn't need to taste and see that the world was bitter to understand the value that I presented as a friend and that I chose them immediately. I remember having a conversation with the initial, with the Goldilocks of many years ago, and she says, "Did you ever feel like this, about me?" And I thought, "Yeah, I did. Immediately, I loved you, but you took a lot of time to figure out that you loved me too, and so I had to meander and figure out other things to do." It's very weird. That will happen to you sometimes. I was immediately like, "Oh, you're my person," and she was like very measured, and I guess she was vetting me. It's fine, but I'm a romantic, platonically or romantically. And I kind of love the story where someone just knows it's meant to be. I don't think you should jump into anything blindly, but there's something magic about someone who's like, "Oh, I see. It's you." And that's what this Just Right Porch does do. Now, the reason I know, no matter how those other women have felt in seeing me have a Just Right Porch, no matter how they have felt, I've had to calm them or reassure them or whatever. I still love you. But do you remember when I wasn't your first choice too? Even though you were mine, even though I loved you immediately, you guys had other things to do. And this is not about being petty or punishing. That's not me, but I'm fair. That's something I will always be. And even with the hot porch, I had given the best I could. I was like, giving you the best that I got. And I realized that, like, oh, she was never sure about me if she could behave this bad. I mean, this was badly. This was the worst out of all the situations I had in my life, and I've had a bear or three, pun intended. She was the worst to me, anyway. So when I got the just right thing, let's talk about it. I wanted someone that would travel with me. I wanted someone that would have their own psychic abilities, and I don't advertise that my Goldilocks currently does. I wanted someone who, I mean, I do, but I didn't to all the friends around me that were like, "What makes this person so special? She's fucking special for a reason." And even the hot porridge questioned me the last time I saw her, like, "Well, what is it?" I was like, "Well, what is it about whatever bullshit you're doing? At least I know my person's not bullshit." It was so funny. Sometimes people want to compete with you, and I was like, I won't even say the things I want to say, but anyway, the no competition. But what I will say is that um that person knew the vision. I didn't even know the vision as much as I think they did. And they ended up being everything I manifested. That's what makes it different. That's what makes it just right. That's what I want you to hold it up against. And let me explain what triggered me. I was traveling, and because I was close in the proximity, I got an Airbnb because I my motto is share separate spaces, shared experiences. But that directly comes from being with the too hot porridge, right? And what I mean by that is that that person, especially in the last few years, was atrocious to me and did not extend gracious hospitality. She would often make me wait outside. I'm embarrassed to say it. It's embarrassing to have someone who is such a low vibrational piece to allow someone to treat you that way. And it's because I was living blindly. And it's funny, you guys have heard me talk about my bulldog who met her and within 5 minutes pulled me around the side of the truck and was like, "Please come home with me. This person's horrible." Like, how do you not? Like, I was embarrassed that it was so perceptible to someone so quickly, and I had squeezed my eyes shut, and I will say she felt away because she made us wait outside. And I was convincing my friend, like, "Oh, just leave the luggage out at Publix. She'll come and give me a ride." And she actually ended up not doing it because she said that it would have been too much trouble to move my luggage from the back of my friend's truck to her van and then into the house. What a piece of shit. I didn't even think that thing would come out of her mouth. But she was inebriated and she was love drunk and cracked out and God knows what else, but it did. And at her soul, that's what it was. I would never to even someone that I didn't love, let alone someone that I claimed to love. Anyway, it was the embarrassment for me, sis. And so, uh, when I travel now, I always make sure I have my own spaces. And a lot of it came from triggering someone who cut me deeply, that I protect myself because I never want someone to have the power to have me leaving, waiting outside. I never want to give someone the power to wonder if they're going to pick me up and give me a ride. And so I have my own control issues after a lot of abusive people have used that tactic to isolate me, and she was one of the last, and it was such a surprising thing to end up in. It happened a couple years in a row that I didn't feel welcomed at her house because I knew, we always know, something was off. And I knew exactly what it was. Y'all have to go watch the past videos. I detail it there greatly. But something was off. And it was other energy that she was around. And hers too. She was just an asshole, so fine. But I remember being on the phone with Goldilocks, this one, um the goldenest of Goldilockses, and I remember being on the phone with her the couple years before, and I was at Trader Joe's. You guys have heard me tell the story, and she was like, I can't believe she won't let you in. I was killing time. I was buying groceries for the friend's house that I was going to, which is kind of the opposite thing that they do. And let me explain, hospitality from Goldilocks is absolutely true. And that doesn't mean that other friends are not hospitable. They absolutely are. But when I go to this person's house, it's beyond over the top. It's like everything. That's why I have this as a gluten-free epiphany, because I'm gluten-free, and that there isn't anything that she doesn't do for me, find for me, get for me, source for me, create new memories for me, jog old memories for me. My husband as well. She is just so lovely, and I feel so welcome. But why was I still booking Airbnb? So for this trip, when I had work to do, I worked this whole past few days that I was traveling, and I booked an Airbnb. And yes, I knew I could stay with her, and I did for a day or two. But I also still booked an Airbnb just for safety. Safety for what? She never cut me. At the end of a second gallery read of a dinner and a night that went long, because that can happen. That's why she's so good for me. She pops her head in. Even though I set a timer, when I'm reading, I just am free. I just zone out. I just go. And she is my business manager that holds me accountable and is like, sweetie, do you need anything? And she's just brilliant. And she can hold her own. And everywhere she goes, people love her. And she loves everybody's dogs. And it's such a good fit for me. It's just right. You see? Everybody else had beautiful lessons, and I still have relationships with those people, but they could never facilitate and do what she does. They are not willing to get on a plane. They're not willing to have passport and to travel. They have other encumbrances, which is not their fault, and it doesn't, I don't hold it against them. But I was very stalwart about my manifestation. I want what I want, and it's okay to say that. So at the end of the night, we're decompressing and debriefing, and I've packed down my setup. I have tables and singing bowls and cards and the whole thing. And my husband was putting the last of it away, and he left us for a few minutes. And I had my feet crossed in front of me. And on my feet were these sparkly YellowBox slippers that my Goldilocks had given me, a gift from my bestie. And let me help you understand about the hot porridge and YellowBox. She introduced them to me, not Goldilocks. The hot porridge did, right? Many, 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 many years ago in our friendship. But you would find them like discounted, maybe like at a bargain basement sale, or like a, what do you call it, an outlet thing, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, y'all, at all. But here's what was interesting. She would never get my size. She knew my size. We had conversations about it. She'd always get me like a size that was too small, like a 10. I wear an 11, or like a 9.5. And I would squeeze my foot into them, and my heels would hang off the back, and I would be so like, oh, this is so amazing. I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I didn't know if it's what she could afford. I didn't even know that yellow. I thought, because I have a size 11, sometimes companies really don't make shoes that are bigger. So I thought, well, maybe this is the biggest size they have. This is the best she could do. Never questioned it. But, she would say, I think she sent me one or two pairs over the years. And they were always never my size. They were not just right. You get it? So I'm looking down at my shoes. They're sparkling back at me, and they fit my feet perfectly, like a Cinderella slipper. A Cinderella story. This Goldilocks has figuratively brought me out of the basement when I was covered in cinder and ashes, dealing with two evil stepsisters of karmic fuckery that hated me because their own futures they couldn't see, though they pretended. And God sent me an earth angel And I understood so many full circle moments. Sometimes God will send in somebody just to pull you out of the rubble, especially if you put out good energy and you've helped other people out of their rubble. I thought, who would save me? I didn't think I was going to get saved. And I know that sounds very fairy tale-ish, right? Who's going to save me? The damsel in distress I had become had to save myself first, but then they sent in an earth angel who literally cleaned me up, a fairy godmother, if you will, right? So, of just energy. It wasn't about materialism or anything that she did for me, though there were lovely moments too, and gifts exchanged and all of the things that good friends do. But what it was energy. And it was her being purposely there for me, day by day by day, in the worst of my grief. She'll never see me that way again. I think that part of my life is over. She's seen other tragedies and things that were horrible as I dealt with my health last year, and let me tell you, she was here for every single bit of it. Picked me up out of rehab, brought me home, ran around, got my medicines when I could barely moan. I'm so grateful. What I will tell you is I looked down at those sparkly shoes a few nights ago, and I apologized because I realized what I was doing. She had said to me, you know, just stay with me the whole time. It would have made more sense, more fiscal sense, everything. But I was triggered because of the bad behavior that someone else did bring into my life, because of the toxicity. I never wanted to not feel safe at someone's home or felt caught off guard or not have an escape plan. God, the one time she was the worst behaved, it was the only time in my whole life I've been around here without my own vehicle. And it's the only time I ever wanted to drive the fuck away. And I had to wait. It was such a weird circumstance. It was definitely meant to be. It was destiny alignment for me to finally see the mask fall off. Another story. There are already videos. There won't be another video about it fully, but go watch the other ones because they're there. But as I sat in that chair with my toes sparkling from a petty that my bestie, Goldilocks, and I got the last time I was there, and they were sparkling and white, and then my feet are in these yellow boxes that fit me just right, and they're rainbow colored, sparkly, glittery, rhinestones, all the things that I love. And let me tell you how that came to be. As I looked down at those shoes, I had to tell her the story. I said, you don't know this, but you know, hot porridge used to introduce me to YellowBox. And I never told her this, you know. There are things that happen as you are getting in and out of relationships with people where you don't tell all the things. You just take a mental note. And that's how I knew when I was vetting that this person was just right for me, because she was checking things off boxes that she didn't even know existed, that she would never see unless I wanted to divulge it. I didn't tell her all that. Because why? It's a lot of baggage. I mean, Jesus, she dealt with a lot as it was, just holding me energetically when I was in the dumps, right? So I said to her, because she called me, you know, whenever she gave them to me, and she was like, girl, YellowBox has a coupon and a sale and whatever, right? And she just like was like, you know, you can pick out what you want or whatever, or I'm gonna pick something out for you. And a couple of times she has just picked out the most amazing princess, like literally sparkly shoes that are yellow, like actually yellow with like all these, it's just gorgeous. I'll be wearing them here shortly, but she's picked out these for me a few times. But I was involved in it, and she double checked on my size, even though we wear the same size, which is another fun thing. And she double checked on my size, and we both love flip flops. Like, I'm from the Keys, and I'm such a flip flop girl, but she is too. We just have so many things in common. It's just an easy relationship to do. I'm so grateful that that porridge was too hot. You get it, guys? But as I looked at my feet, I told her the story. I said, you know, hot porridge would send yellow boxes to me, but they were never fit. They literally never fit. They were never my right size, and they were. It was weird, and the box was ratty. It was not like an experience. Like when Goldilocks gets them for me, it's a fucking experience. It's like pristine. It's like everything is perfect. And it's so indicative of the relationships differences that I was in. And tears came to my eyes as my angel said, do you understand what you've been doing? I heard that, and so I had to look at her and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the Airbnbs, because I've been doing it out of protection and safety for me. Because, and she said, I know, God, it's good to be known by somebody. And she looked at me directly and not forcefully, kindly and patiently, and she said, no more Airbnbs. It was like I was in therapy. I'm sitting there sobbing about YellowBox shoes, and it's because this person in my life knew exactly what to do to heal me. When the person is right, you won't have to jump through hoops, and they won't have to choose other people over you. You are their person, you are their bestie, you are their lover, whatever it is for you. Our relationship is defined in that one dimension, but for you, it may be other things. And she said it to me several times as that weekend came to an end, because I had just checked out of the Airbnb that morning and come over to her house for dinner, one of my favorite things to do with friends and family, and the pepperonis too. And no more Airbnbs for you. Never again when you're with me, unless I'm in it with you too, which she has been. We've traveled together and we've had Airbnbs together with my husband and her and all that stuff. So it's been great. Good times. No issue with that ever. But she's like, when you're here, you stay with me. And that's just the way it's going to be. This is how I also know this person is for me, and it's just right. That was balance, masculine and feminine energy. Too hot, had too much masculine energy. Y'all have heard me say it a million times. She was ever the lady, straighten her hair every day, put makeup on every day that Jesus sent. But she acted like a dude that had just like mainline, I was about to say heroin. She probably was mainlining that too. No, I don't know that was heroin, but testosterone. That's what I was gonna say. She was over, she was feminine, feminine, feminine. Okay. And guys, I have dated a diesel mechanic as a woman, like a woman that was a diesel mechanic. So I know what it is to date a masculine woman. But her masculinity regarding her sexuality, regarding her promiscuity, regarding her disregard for anchoring into family, it was like immature masculinity, right? Not what a man really is. So it was funny. And she would never understand these concepts in a million years if you explained it to her. She'd be like, I'm not masculine. She'd be so offended and just like ignorant. However, what I will say is that my Goldilocks is not that. She is anything but ignorant, and she totally gets balanced masculine and feminine energy. Also, she's the epitome of femininity, which is so funny to me. Um, Truly, actually, southern and genteel, and I'm not even southern, I wouldn't say, but genteel for sure. No accent of southern, which is so refreshing, let me tell you. Okay, I used to think the southern accent was so hot. Now I'm so fucking triggered by it. But she has no accent like that. Thank you, Jesus. That's also why she's just right for me. I'm so grateful. But she is genteel, like an 1800 century lady, essentially, right? Very genteel, very like no potty mouth, unless need be. We all have our different personalities, and I love that about her, especially that she traffics exactly how I need her to be and shows up for me exactly the same way I need her to be. But also, it's not just for me, it's for her. But she understands. I was teaching that series about Hawaii and New York, masculine and feminine energy and how it shows up. She is a boss in her real life, so that's New York energy, masculine energy. She is a wife, she's a mother, that is very Hawaii, feminine energy, and there's a nurturing. And in that moment, when she looked at me, she was the perfect blend of both of those things. No more Airbnbs. That's masculine energy. It was very fathering. That's that Capricorn rising that's in her chart. It was her taking care of me and letting me know you're safe. My God, you're safe with me, which is not something that I had been able to be with Hot Porridge and her insanity. You get it? I was not safe with her. Ever. Ever. I never knew where I stood. I never knew what was going on. I mean, I knew, but it was never going to be confirmed by her. She gaslit me all along, strung me all along, played games all along, and then tried to strip my identity and then pretend it was always her that was strong. Lies. The lie detector said, shout out to Maury in his swan song, that was a lie. You are not a father. You are not fathering. You are not mothering. You are nothing. And that is what the reality of the hot porridge did bring. And I only knew that with crystal clarity. Yes, I had to divest and I had to leave and I had to do all the things that I advise you guys to do. And that's when God sent in someone who loved me too. Maybe loved me for the first time immediately. These are all the words that I could never say to all the other friends that are like, well, what makes her so special? What makes her so special is that she immediately chose me from the first second we met each other and never wavered. Even when things got rough or tough, scary or weird, when I veered or took left turns, threw her off course, or she threw me off course, she never wavered. She's like, oh, I know what I'm here for. And that was so healthy for me because I did bad behavior. I was bleeding out, and she never cut me. And sometimes I would bleed on her. And what I mean by that is I would push her away. I remember very specifically a couple summers ago, I was a hot mess. It was fresh, fresh. And she was so strong for me when I was weak, operating out of masculine energy, fathering energy, with a dollop of mothering energy. And then she switched that when I had regulated myself. And she's like, I'm not going anywhere. You're not breaking up with me. You're not pushing me away. It's exactly the words that I needed to have someone say because I was dealing with PTSD from someone who delighted in playing mind games with me and making it seem like they didn't want me. Well, the truth is, they did want me all along. But they wanted me to feel like I had gotten it wrong because it inflated their ego. Instead of us just living our best life and having a great relationship under the radar and all that stuff, which I was willing to do. It's so funny. You see what you're willing to settle for when you love someone? It's true. We'll set it as whether you agree or not. When you love someone, you'll do crazy shit. Or when you're abused by someone, message, new video coming up about that, you will be manipulated into bad behavior and crazy shit. Message, and that's what was happening with that. I had PTSD because someone behaved badly. And I thought that for the rest of my life, if I had a friendship and they were long distance, that it would always be an Airbnb for me until Goldilocks said, no more. It will be we, and it will be us in the same house. And if you're near me, you never put out money for anything other than a good dinner or a great glass of wine if you want to as my friend, but you owe me nothing and no money you will spend. Those days are over. It is powerful. It felt like light. And as I looked down at my sparkly feet, the yellow box shoes that actually fell, fit, fit me correctly, and I looked into the face of my Goldilocks with her magical eyes, I knew that this porridge was just right. Goldilocks, YellowBox, and the 3 Airbnbs. I've rented Airbnbs a few times since I've been visiting her, and I see her very often, as good friends do. You make time for each other, even long distance. It's true. That was also something Hot Porridge wouldn't do. And I even feel kind of lame about comparisons with Hot Porridge because they are so not the same. It's funny, God allowed there to be similarities initially because he knew that I was so brainwashed about the relationship that I had with Hot Porridge that I would never take a look or turn my head and realize like Goldilocks was really it instead. Like energetically, she's such a better fit for me. I almost laugh at how much energy I invested into the Hot Porridge. It was never right for me. And I think maybe they knew that the whole time. And I was the one who was crazy. I think they always knew what the outcome was going to be. They're in their own way. We all have our psychic intuition, even if we're terrible Gargamels, right? She was definitely a Gargamel. She actually really reminds me of Gargamel from the Smurfs, which is so funny that that came up. But that's why I had to realize, wow, I've been punishing her. And that's what I said to her. I said, I have not been punishing you because I think you deserve punishment or you're a bad person. I didn't realize that I have been treating you like you were going to have no manners, leave me outside. And she said that to me that night. And I just have to say this, it was a candid conversation. I didn't ask for her permission to speak about it, but I just thought this is such a powerful lesson. She said, I will never leave you outside. I will never leave you waiting. I will never abandon you. And I felt that it was true in my soul. So much so that yes, I love an Airbnb, y'all. I am in Airbnbs about 10 to 12 times a year. That's no exaggeration. I travel a lot when I am upright and mobile, and I'm getting back to that. in my life. And so, and all over the place, out of the country, in the country, all that stuff. No, like no discrimination. I love it. But I realize it will never be something that I have to do when I'm in proximity to her. And it's something she doesn't want me to do. With that balanced energy, masculine and femininity, she said, not today, Satan. Not that I was Satan. She was just saying no more. She was saying essentially that Satan's out of your life. We officially shut the door. And when you're around me, you're safe. You are welcome here. You're welcome here by yourself. You're welcome here with your husband. You're welcome here no matter what. There is grace. And I will open my doors for you and be prepared for you. And we'll have magical food and wonderful adventures and do nothing at all or do everything. But you are welcome here. There is no beginning and there is no end. It was beautiful. Goldilocks, Yellow Box, and the Three Bears. It's hard when you have PTSD to face your fears. It's hard to let someone in to love you again. But I can tell that this person is not just a friend, she was an earth angel. My empaths and my divine feminines, for all of the work and love that you have given to people. And you think, when will someone love me? You hear that audible confirmation? When will someone love me right? When will they come into my life? When are they going to care about me? Another audible confirmation. Set yourself free and it will be. That's what you need to know. When I let go of Gargamel, the hot porridge, I didn't know how good my Goldilocks would be to me. I knew she recognized me immediately. And you know what's so funny? I recognized her too. But out of my loyalty, a fixed sign in Taurus, the moon sign for me, and Leo, a fixed sign as well, I would stay in a relationship that was pure hell just because I felt like I needed to for the rest of my life. Sometimes a betrayal will do you so right. I said that, yes. Sometimes a betrayal will do you so right. Her betraying me, not being sure about me after 20 years, trying to put me up against her Goldilocks, which would end up being her greatest fear, was the best thing that ever happened to me. It wasn't that I didn't recognize my bestie immediately, it was that I was in a relationship where I felt obligated to stay and to be, and I didn't realize that it was with someone who didn't give one single fuck about me. And I would have stayed there probably for another 20 years, like helping her solve her problem, listening to her tears, her crocodile tears, her bullshit, her scams. I would have stayed there. And God said, no, you've loved too many people. You've given too much of your heart. And now we get to do our part and bring someone in from another galaxy who is not like anybody you've ever dealt with before, who will love you completely because that's been her assignment, is you in a way. It doesn't mean she doesn't have other things to do and other people to love and other things she does. But you both have worked on your codependency, you've worked on a lot of things, and guess what? This is exactly the right person for you. This porridge is just right. We asked her to come to you to help you through your dark night. And even in that, I had verbiage where I was like, it's okay if this is just a season and she's not in my life forever. And even that is born out of my PTSD because I had to release attachment, right? I realized it could not always be codependency, it had to be healthy. And my angel said, that's nice that you're saying all those words, and we get it. You've done your work, Monette, and we respect it and we see it. But this is one time where someone's not going to be taken, yanked. You've learned the lessons of your eighth house scorpionic energy regarding friendships. Now you don't have hidden enemies and weird jealousies. You have a support system. You have a person who values you and who knew immediately that you were their person too. They didn't need to taste all the porridges on the table. They didn't need to sleep in every bed. We have telepathy. We share messages in our head, but beyond that, we share our heart. And it was right from the start. What God has brought together, let no man tear apart. When you move into the right relationship, no one can interrupt it. And that's my final message. When you find your just right porridge, no one can take that from you. That will be up for you two to decide. Should we stay by each other's side or drift away and come back? That will be between us quietly because we have each other's back and no one can drive a wedge. not friends, and not family. We've had these conversations. And that's not something that had ever been in any of those other stations or destinations in my life with the other women that were friends. It was all assumed and hoped for, but this is actually communicated with. And when you have a blueprint, you can execute a structure. You can create architecture that stands the test of time and maybe makes it into one of those digests because it's mighty fine, an edifice to be looked upon because something was done just right. Get through your dark night and then request unapologetically that they send you in someone who is not for everybody, but just for you, whether it is romantically or platonically too. It is a dream and a wish that your heart makes. But I promise you, it does come true. So good sharing energy with you guys today. Come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together.